Welcome. This is Anka Novakovic here with Eco Coach, and today I'm going to be looking and talking about 3 operational risks that you can incur if you're not implementing sustainability at your organization. So we talked about regulatory risks last time. If you didn't check out if you weren't here for our last Facebook Live, definitely check it out. And before that, I kind of talked about why implement sustainability at your organization and gave quite a few examples, right? You have risks, you have the benefits, and I walked through the benefits, I walked through the risks. They're very high level, and so now I wanted to spend some of the Facebook Lives talking more about each of those benefits and risks in detail. And I think some of the benefits are pretty obvious for many organizations and many people listening, but I just wanted to go through all of them in case you're not familiar with why sustainability would be something that you want to implement at your organization. And just so we're on the same page, when I talk about sustainability, I talk about the triple bottom line, and that is addressing taking actions that are beneficial not just for the traditional bottom line, but also for people and for the planet. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about sustainability. And obviously, sustainability covers a broad range of topics. And if you're implementing a recycling program, that is considered part of sustainability. If you're purchasing RECs, renewable energy credits, that's also sustainability. If you're looking at your building and looking to green your building, or if you have LEED certification for your building, that is also part of the sustainability program. And so it's kind of a larger topic that we're addressing right now, and I'm going to be going into more detail at a later time. So let's get back to those 3 operational risks. And really, there are a lot of different operational risks that you can think about when you're kind of choosing not to implement sustainability at your organization. But a few of the examples that I am talking about today, and the 3 that I wanted to mention, is essentially if you have a storm, or if there's a major weather event and you own a brick and mortar store. So if you have a retail store, or even if you have, let's say, like a title company to go in, that's the place, I guess, where you go in and you're signed for your mortgage. Sorry, I don't want to get diverted and go into a tangent about that, but I'm bringing myself back. But if you have a retail store, if you have a brick and mortar store in general, and there's a major event, and there's a risk that you're going to be shut down, the energy goes off, the lights go out for whatever reason. Another potential risk is if you have, again, with that example, if there's a storm or what have you, you may be, the lights may go out, but you may also end up directly or indirectly paying more for your energy. So there are energy price fluctuations if you're not locking in your rates. And then there's also potential increased employee turnover. And so I'm going to just go through those 3. Of course, like I said before, there are a lot of other operational risks, but these are the 3 that I'm just going to focus on right now. So the first thing is potentially shutting your doors, or lights out. Lights out can be, even if you're telecommuting, if you're in a coffee shop, or if you're working from home. But there is increased climate events throughout the globe, and this has been documented by many different organizations. And I'm going to share with you a quote from a NOAA summary of the 3rd U.S. National Climate Assessment. I have said in prior Facebook Lives that I'm not very good with remembering either quotes or remembering numbers, so I usually have a prompt. I need to kind of remind myself of that. So for this, it said the latest summary of the 3rd U.S. National Climate Assessment said that part of it is that some extreme weather and climate events have increased in the recent decade, and that impacts related to climate change are already evident in many sectors. And if you're not convinced necessarily that climate change is something that you should take into account, what I'm going to do after this, I actually wrote a LinkedIn article that talks about this topic, and also I'm going to post a blog, and in there's actually, and you can probably just look it up online, in there I'm going to include a Forbes article where that kind of details a Harvard Business School assignment where each student was asked to look at a business and kind of how climate has impacted it. And the students came up with 900 examples of how businesses were impacted. So I'll include that in my blog, and if not, you can check it out on Forbes. It's you can just Google 900 businesses and climate change, and you'll be able to find it. So again, climate change, obviously, business interruption is really something that's really important, and you want to take into consideration. And there are a few things that you can do with that. Resiliency is something that a lot of cities and states are looking at. But for businesses, it's not really that big of a deal yet, right? There aren't that many tools that are available, but there are a few tools out there, and there are a couple tools that I wanted to mention right now that I think would be relevant. So one is called PREP, and since I'm not very good with acronyms, I will refer back, and it's called the Partnership for Resilience and Preparedness. So that is an open source platform that was developed to help corporations essentially make long-term infrastructure decisions. So if you can look and see what the weather would look like, would be predicted for your local area. Another one, NOAA actually also has a tool for that, and it's called the Climate Explorer Toolkit, and you could just look it up online. Again, I'm going to include a blog, and I'll have links to this later on. I just haven't gotten around to it. It's been a pretty busy week, and that essentially lets you look at past and projected climate trends at the local level, so you can integrate that into your planning, so you can integrate that into your disaster preparedness and your resiliency. So that's something that you definitely want to look at. And again, that's part of sustainability. It's called something else for different people may call it different things. Resiliency is also can also be the next step after sustainability. So again, this is the first operational risk that I talked about, which is the risk of your doors closing because of a climate event, or basically the increased risk of climate events, and not just your doors closing, but even your work being interrupted, even if you're at a coffee shop and telecommuting, or if you are one of the increasing number of individuals who are working from home. So that's one risk. The second risk is energy price fluctuations. So the wholesale markets for energy really depend on a lot of different things and are affected by global events. They're affected by war. They're affected by anything that's happening politically. They're also obviously affected by any sort of government regulation that's happening, and obviously by the price of oil, the price of gas, and what's happening around that, right? So there are going to be energy price fluctuations, and one of the things that you can look at is historically prices keep inching up. Sometimes they'll go back and then they'll go back up, but over the long term, you still don't necessarily know how to predict your energy price, right? And so energy price energy cost is part of your overhead if you're a business, and maybe it's locked in, maybe if you're a tenant, and maybe it's not. And if you are a tenant and if it's locked in, I'm going to talk about green leases at another time, where essentially you can renegotiate that. If you're using less energy, then you don't have to pay a set price. But for now, there are a few things that you can do so that you address those energy price fluctuations, right? You're not stuck with them. First of all, if you do own the building, or if you can work with your facility manager, you can basically go in and talk to them and see what the set points are. For example, what if the temperature set points for every day are at one point, and for the weekend they're at a lower point, then that's great. You want to look at when that starts at the beginning of the day, when it ends at the end of the day. You want to also look at basically when the HVAC overall is turned on and off, if it's off over the weekend, if no one works in the building. So those are things that you can do if you own the building. If you have a little bit of budget, I would suggest starting out with an ASHRAE Level 1 energy audit and kind of seeing what other recommendations there are, and then you can work from there as well. So those are a couple things. So taking those actions, reducing your energy costs is the first step, right? And then the second step is, okay, locking in my rate. How can I lock in my energy rate? And what I would suggest, of course, is looking at renewable energy credits, looking at locking your rate in and adding some RECs on top of that. The prices are, depending on the market, can be relatively low, and you can lock in a price for a relatively reasonable kind of addition on top of a locked-in energy price. So you're able to predict what your overhead's going to be for energy, and you're also contributing to renewable energy. Another option, obviously, if you have more of a budget, and some organizations do, is you can look into installing solar. And, on your rooftop, if you own the building, you can also have wind power if you want wind turbines on your building. And I would look up dsireusa.org, or I believe it's it's a database of state incentives for renewables and efficiency. So I would Google that, but basically there are different rebates that are available for energy and for renewables. So if you're really excited about doing something like installing solar on your building, take a look at that, and then you might be able to find some rebates at your local level or at the state level. There aren't as many right now at the federal level, but definitely take a look at that and see what you can do. And so that's the first operational risk that we went through, if you're just tuning in, is the climate events, essentially, and a storm could shut down your operations for a short period of time or a longer period of time. The second one, which I just talked about, is energy price fluctuations. And then the third one is employee turnover. And employee turnover and sustainability, and why are those two connected, or kind of how are those two connected? Well, a lot of potential talent and top talent right now is looking to work in a company that is making a difference, right? And so if you're an organization that's kind of going about business as usual and isn't inspiring your staff and isn't kind of rewarding them with things that they're interested in extracurricularly, so to speak. So for example, a volunteer day or what have you, where they can support a cause that they feel really passionate about, then those individuals are going to leave sooner or later. And there are a lot of different estimates around how much of the employee workforce, how much of a cost, HR cost is for someone leaving the organization, and it ranges from 20% of a person's annual salary to more than that. So it's really costly to have turnover. And if you're an HR person or if you're an exec, you are very much aware of that. And that's not something that you want to do. So you want to keep especially you want to keep the good people in your organization, right? Millennials, especially, which is the largest living generation right now, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, are especially care about making a difference or working for an organization that makes a difference. So if you don't have sustainability, or if you don't have corporate social responsibility, or if you don't have some sort of philanthropic activity at your organization, then those individuals aren't going to be as excited to work there or to join your team. So you're missing out on top talent again, or you may have people leaving for something that's more exciting. So again, those are the three things. Those are the three operational risks. And of course, with that, in terms of this kind of looking at the sustainability lens, there are a few things that you can do. You can start a green team and get the millennials involved, get other folks involved. you can think about a recycling challenge where even for a 2-week period, you can get people excited about something. I mentioned volunteering, so you can volunteer, you can have volunteer days, and your staff can decide where to go and when to go. So again, there are different things that you can do to get people excited. You can also have an energy challenge. You can have a, like turn off the lights. And I wouldn't necessarily suggest having kind of like an energy cop around, but if people turn off the lights, then someone can go around and give them a balloon or a smiley face for the people who actually do that. Ideally, you have motion sensors in your office, so or in the coffee shop that you work at, so you don't have to worry about that. But there are other things that you could be doing, like turning off your monitor, that I think could be rewarded, right? So think about some fun things that you could do with your staff or with your colleagues. Again, if you're someone who's really excited about sustainability at your organization, I would urge you to kind of think about those things and kind of think about what would excite you and what would excite your colleagues around sustainability. And again, so that's one of the operational risks. And so if you're just tuning in, I covered, this is a third operational risk. So I covered the climate-related events and the possibility of shutting down business and what you can do about that as kind of a manager or business executive. I covered energy price fluctuations and what you can do about that. And this is the third operational risk that you're incurring by not implementing sustainability. And of course, with all of these, I'm talking about it through the sustainability lens, but there are different ways of looking at it. So this is just one way of looking at it, because for me, this is my perspective, but you can look at it from, just kind of just risk management overall, right? The energy price fluctuations is one part. All of these are just, how do you stay in business, keep your doors open, reduce your costs. And so again, and the third operational risk that I mentioned was employee turnover, and with that, really like not attracting top talent. So thanks so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, and like I mentioned, I'm going to be putting this, more details about this on my blog at ecocoach.com. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to enter them in the comment box. And if you are looking at sustainability at your organization, be sure to download our free checklist, which essentially enables you to figure out where you stand with your sustainability efforts, and they may be called something else at your organization, so you might find out that you're doing things that you didn't know you were doing. And then also you can figure out where you want to go. So the checklist is really kind of at the high level, but for starters, I think it's a great place to start. It's free. Check out the website, www.eco-coach.com, and have a fantastic day. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.